Hi, welcome to Haven. This is a podcast that's a safe space for curiosity and conversation. I'm your host, Haven, and today I'm curious about marriage counseling. Now, a quick pause to hear from my sponsors. This episode is brought to you by EfficientAid. EfficientAid offers fractional virtual assistants whose sole purpose is to help people who are making a difference. Are you bogged down in your email and still managing your own calendar? Delegating those tasks to a high-caliber career assistant can free you up to utilize your time towards the areas of your best and highest use, allowing you to focus on the areas you truly thrive in. Learn more at efficientaid.com. That's efficient, AIDE.com. Marriage counseling. So if you haven't yet listened to the last episode that we did together, my husband, Aaron, and I, we talked about expectations and conflict and communication. And this episode, we're talking about money and sex. So it's mature content. If you're around little ones, put in some AirPods or push pause. It's obviously not for younger listeners, but I hope you circle back because I do think there's some value here. So as a reminder, my guest is my husband, Aaron.
Apparently co-host now, so.
Apparently co-host.
Upgrade.
I mean,
No.
We probably have the best chemistry out of any guest I'll have. So maybe. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Let's talk about money first.
Okay. This one's a really good exercise. So again, I hope you've listened to the other episode. This is like, as much as Aaron and I are going to share our experience, this is for you and your relationship and your marriage. Take this back and like with these questions and these prompts. One exercise that is so helpful to start about with the topic of money, I learned in a breakout. And it's asking your partner, hey, what's your earliest memory when it comes to money from childhood? Like some people were like, oh, my mom said, like, we have to get these paper towels because the other ones are too expensive, and that stuck with them. Or for me, my experience, my first earliest one was when I lost a tooth at my grandmother's house. And I woke up the next day and I think I got like $10. And I was like, what? Like at home, I get 25 cents. I was believing in the tooth fairy. I was like, is this district tooth fairy just like, better in this neighborhood? Like, how did this happen? I don't really understand it. And I'm going to save all of my tooths on those last little nerves and only lose them at my grandmother's house because this is a way better cash payout for me.
That's amazing.
But the questions that came up for that was like excitement, curiosity, a little bit of confusion, a little bit of competition and intrigue. But those are the emotions that tied to my first memory of money. But when we did this exercise, your answer was so different than mine.
Oh, super different.
So different.
No
Tell
tooth
us.
fairy.
No tooth fairy.
I think my first realization about money was, I think my dad had some kind of issues or whatever with bills. And basically, like, we played camping in the house for a couple weeks because he either didn't or couldn't pay the electric bill. And I was like, oh, so you need like money to like have things like electricity. It felt like it was just like a kind of for granted kind of thing. But I kind of realized I was like, oh, like otherwise we're just gonna, it was a fun adventure, great spin. But for a difficult time, for me, I think it was maybe a survival thing, like literally camping. It's like you're surviving in whatever environment. For us, it just happened to be inside of our house with no electricity.
Mm-hmm.
But that was kind of a eye-opening point to me where, oh, okay, money sort of impacts your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot for me to understand it. I think it was like 8 or 9 or something like that. But
what I love about that question is it shows you a glimpse of like you and your spouse or whoever will view money fundamentally different based on your upbringing. And you're bringing that into the relationship.
Yeah. Where I would be like, let's save, hyper save. Like it's a precious like commodity. Let's not go crazy.
And
you're like, tooth fairy.
Well, I'm like strategizing. If we do this, we can make this.
That's a better way to think about it.
Well, I mean, like it's just different though. Like we have different even emotions tied with money. We have different experiences with money.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about our relationship with it, like those factors are at play there. Mm-hmm. It's not just like, oh, let's save. Oh, let's spend. There's always deeper nuances into why you're behaving the way you're behaving.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, money is neutral. Like, money's not good or bad. How are you going to handle it? And it's a good thing to ask. Like, we'll ask couples when we take them through this premarital counseling is like, how do you handle money now? And I remember one couple, it kind of brought a little bit of conflict is he loved to be generous, he would say. He was like, I love paying for friends' lunches. I love, like, if someone's sponsoring a trip, I want to do that. I love being generous. And the woman he was going to marry is like, that stresses me out because, like, what if we can't pay rent because you want to be generous? Like, she's like, I want you to be generous. I'm not saying don't, but I'm concerned that it's irresponsible sometimes. So it's also those kind of things. We ultimately were like, okay, like, how much do you want to budget every month to be generous? And then you, sir, can spend all of that in generous. And then she knows exactly how much you're going to use. And when you run out of that, you have to take care of your family too.
Yeah, it's a priorities thing. Like, it's a big priority. You allot for it.
And again, when we take couples, we'll send them a budgeting sheet and we'll say, we're not going to look at your sheet, but you guys need to fill this out together. Like, you have to have some type of budget or an idea and conversations about where do you see money going? Because if you don't have a plan, your money will own you and your money will run your life. Like, money is neutral. You need to be the one in charge of it.
One thing I think that helped for us ensure that it's very neutral is, like, we ended up merging our bank accounts like right when we got married. And some people, maybe it doesn't make sense for whatever reason, but I think on the trust level, it's like there have been times where I made more than you, and there's other times where you made a lot more than me, and it's just kind of how life is.
I see it as ours always.
Yeah, but we're contributing to our family. We're on the same team. Like, it's not no competition. It's, you know what I mean? Like, we're on the same level.
It's a question people need to ask is, are we going to merge our finances or not? Like, I wouldn't say there's a right or wrong. We chose to, but you guys need to have those discussions, ideally in advance, because you can have these expectations and then you get married and then you're like, what, you don't trust me to merge finances? Like, whatever the reason is talk about it.
Are you going to leave me? You know, that
like, you
kind of
never
stuff.
know. Or like a woman may be like, I want to have independent freedom away from you because of my past. Or people have their own reasons of why they want stuff. It's just talking about them and knowing them together. Also, when we have them kind of do the worksheet of budget, I'm like, did you guys agree on everything? Usually it's no. Usually there's different things and like, okay, what new came up and what did you guys talk about there? Like, just talk about it and stick to whatever you land on, but it's okay to disagree in how you want to spend things too.
No doubt there'll be some conflicts involved with that.
Also, have you talked about debt? Like, what debt are you bringing into the marriage?
That's a huge one, especially now. Student debts, student loans, all that stuff. It's like very real to like enter a situation together where you're like, oh, okay, this is a huge looming thing, or no problem at all, you know?
Yeah. To know who you're marrying, just knowing the elements about them, and then you get to choose to marry them. Also, it's like, I don't think everyone's in as binary as are you a spender or a saver, but you do need to know, like the way that you and I sometimes will kind of flip-flop. Like sometimes one of us will save, sometimes one of us will spend, but we joke when we're shopping because we don't shop often, but you'll be like, hey, can I get these pants? And I'm like, yes, if I can get this top. And it reminds me of Arrested Development.
Yeah, it's a banana stand where
we call it the banana stand.
Maybe in George Michael or in the banana stand, and they're like, oh yeah, they keep inventory of the bananas, but you know, for every banana, there's $1 accounted for it. So take $1, throw away banana. They'll never know. It doesn't work that way.
No, it's opposite. You lose inventory and cash. But that's sometimes how we'll be like, oh yeah, like you can get those pants if I can get this shirt. Now we're like double out. But it's just knowing that stuff about one another and just what levels you're okay. You and I always have a limit of if we're going to spend over X amount of dollars, we have to tell the other person. Anything under that amount is completely up to your discretion. But we do have a limit. And it's changed. When we first got married, it was like $25. Yeah. Where it's like, if you're spending over 25, like we need to tell each other about it. Now it's higher. But it's still there.
Now it's like $40. Right?
Also, it's important to know, like, how did you grow up with money? Like, did you have a really bad experience with a parent who mishandled money and you're kind of putting that on your spouse? Or was everything always taken care of and you had immense privilege and you've never experienced that? And
do you still not think about money?
You know, still maybe not to think about money? That means you're privileged.
Yeah.
Which is okay. You just have to know that about yourself and know that most people don't experience the world that way. It's important to talk about. Oh, this one's a good one. Borrowing money, friends and family. What's your take on it?
Don't do it.
Just the headline, don't do it.
Or it's not like loans or anything like that.
Mhm.
Sometimes, if it's a gift, wonderful, like receive the gift, that kind of thing. But I think there is there's an important aspect of the marriage where you guys are coming together.
Mhm.
Like we came together, and the other influences of money, and not that it's power, but it kind of is like some sort of
Mhm.
influence in some way that it's, I think, much healthier to like the leave and cleave kind of idea. Like you're going to leave
Your family of
your
origin.
mother and father and join, with your spouse to make a new family.
Yeah. The way that we have it is it just keeps it cleaner of like not letting people borrow money. If we give it, it's a gift and we don't
Mhm.
expect it in return. But it's a pretty firm boundary of it gets really messy and it can really corrode some relationships.
Yeah.
Another helpful practice when it comes to money is the way that you talk about it too. Instead of saying, oh, we can't afford that, that's a little bit of a poverty mentality. It's saying, that's not how we're choosing to spend our money right now.
Yeah.
The shift in language matters. The shift in language of how you view money matters. Instead of saying like, oh, I can't buy that. It's too much. I can't afford that. No, that's not how I'm going to choose to spend my money right now.
It would be fun to buy that, but I'm choosing not to.
Yeah.
Because I'd rather have electricity.
Have electricity. That's such a good one.
Yeah.
Anything else on the money thing? Those are our main things that we'll talk couples through.
I think that covers most of the money talk. But again, what I like about the whole marriage counseling thing, this whole thing that we've taken couples through, is it's been like they all kind of compound on each other. It's the expectations, conflict, like those things can happen a lot with money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really important to have a safe place to talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. So when it comes to sex, the most important thing is, again, it's going back to expectations, is asking your partner, hey, what's your expectations when it comes to sex? Like, what's the frequency that you're assuming? Like, what's the time of day? Like, what are the types? Like, what are the general kind of things? And hearing about it as a form of curiosity and as a form of like, okay, like, can I meet those expectations? Is there a middle playing ground that we need to go to?
I think that we have called this section of the marriage counseling like sex, but it's really intimacy. Like there are ways to be intimate, that are bigger than just like the sexual act, sexual intercourse, whatever you want to call it. Like when you have love languages and that kind of thing. Like for me, it's words of affirmation. For you, it's mainly physical touch. We're kind of close on some of the numbers. If you haven't read the book, I haven't read the book. I've just taken the test and it was insightful.
It was still
I've read
helpful.
I've skimmed the book, but it's important to know like those kind of things. Like, am I just communicating what I look for, I'm wanting versus what you need or what actually will like access you and help you feel connected to me, intimate. It's a big deal.
That's true. Intimacy is way more all encompassing than just the physical aspect of it. But I think also it's like you're going to have different needs. Like someone's going to have a higher emotional request and someone's going to have a higher sex drive or lower. Like you're not going to be even, and that's also okay. It's just knowing that about each other and talking about it overall.
Yeah. It could be seasonal too, where I'm just stressed out right now and, I need an outlet, or I'm stressed out right now and I don't want to be touched, like,
could be either way.
Especially pregnancy, starting a family. That's tricky.
It is because it ebbs and flows. Where like the end of pregnancy, it was the opposite. My hormones were like, let's do it, man. It's awesome. And then afterwards it was like, see you in 3 months, like we're about to just go into war and into the fog. So it also can be variant of each person and what's physically happening in your body at the same time.
Yeah. But I think in the marriage context, like starting, like say this is free marriage counseling, in the beginning stages, it's really like still, I think, serving each other, not like there's nothing transactional about it. There shouldn't be. Like we have a what do you call it? A rule?
It's a rule.
A guideline, an agreement that we won't like barter for sex. Is like, I'll do the dishes if you do me, whatever. Stupid.
Who would even say that? It's mainly like.
See, it doesn't work. It's like that. This shouldn't be like thank you so much. I'm going to reward you even. Like
Yeah.
that's not a really healthy way to look at it either. Cause then it's kind of becomes this like bartering transactional thing that it's really like, a union, it's such an intimate, spiritual experience.
Totally. It is a gift and to be seen that way. Um, Also, when people are getting married, we recommend just talk about it with each other, talk about your past. Like, I don't think you need to go into explicit detail, but I think if you're going to marry someone, they should know your background.
Yeah. Like you don't have to go super graphic history, but to be aware of those things, it probably will. I know for some people, some guys I've talked to who've like talked to their wives about that. They've said it's the hardest thing they've like had to do, but in the long run, it's way better to be open about those things and real than it to come out later or to find out something, pornography or something like that, even, not just your history with another person, just your history with like sex in general, sexuality. I think it's better to shine light on things than to live in the dark.
Totally. And talk backwards facing, like talk looking in the rear view and also talk in the future. Like, what are your fantasies? What are your desires? What are your hopes? Like those kind of things are just as important too. It's like not just the back, but also like, what are you looking for in the future? Some other practical things that we do have though is if someone is wanting sex and the other one's not ready, it's never like a rejection no. It's always a no with an appointment.
Yeah, that's important because there's nothing more rejecting than like, no, I don't want it.
I have a headache.
That's how Haven usually says. No, I'm just kidding.
That is
no,
so
bad.
not true.
No, there's nothing more like rejecting than just kind of being shut down. You're
Yeah.
like, okay, I was trying to use my sexy voice and you think I'm being a character from Harry Potter or something like that.
What?
It's like, what?
No, it's saying
that doesn't happen in real life.
That made me laugh, honey.
Like, wow, cool guy. He's got the cool guy
Wow,
voice.
cool guy's
know
trying to
what he's trying to do now.
put the moves on me. It's so obvious. No, it'll be like, I can't get in the mental space, but like, yeah, tomorrow morning for sure.
Sure. Yeah. No, I'm not saying sure, like that'll happen. No, but like it's good to have that not just be an outright no.
Yeah.
It's like, not right now. Could we do it at this time? Not just later, because later could mean never. But but with an appointment, I
someone
think
to
that's
hold
a good
on to
point.
where it's not just like a no and there's no promise of like when that's going to happen. But also like some other practical things that we have in our marriage is you and I are totally free to talk about anything, to try anything. We do have some guardrails for us, which is like never, it's only between us two. It's never a third party person ever. And also we don't ever include pornography ever.
That's a third party. It's a different thing. It's not us.
Yeah. But anything in there though, I'm always like game to do anything. You're always willing to try it. Like we may not like it, but I do think it's willing to also explore curiosities there and to not feel shame, to not feel like, especially if you grew up in like a purity culture, it's kind of like, don't ever, ever until you're married. And then, oh, have at it. That shame carries, This is a gift. This is expression. This is bonding. This is something that's important to do together.
It's kind of like a language too. Like you're learning to speak a different kind of language or to communicate in a different kind of way. And it's important to like take it slow, listen, all of that.
And this is also the one element where like you and I don't share details about this with anyone, period.
Yeah. Not even the podcast.
No, definitely not the podcast, man. But like, I mean, there's no reason this needs to come up with our marriage counselor unless there's like an issue. Like this is also, there's safety in it being a private world between us. Like no one knows me the way you do. No one knows you the way I do. Like it's such a safe, sacred ground to be expressions of ourselves and to know each other in like a sense of like playing and fun and bonding.
Yeah. There's
safety in that.
Yeah.
There's safety in parameters.
Keeping that marriage as a sacred covenant, it's like, this is a really pure thing, between us. And I think marriage is a great opportunity to sort of, there's a good mirroring that happens when you're with another person, when you're with your wife, with your spouse, that you begin to see things about yourself that, oh, I don't know if I like that. Or, wow, I didn't realize I could do that. Like sometimes it surprises me I probably have more naturally a negative view inside my own mind, you know, naturally. I've done a lot of things to overcome that and push through it and to be led through it. But there are some moments in our marriage where I felt like, how did that happen? Like when I first melted the igloo, you know, when you were
With our
sniping. The last
conflict.
podcast we talked about conflict and how you kind of freeze up and then like we'll start sniping through the little hole. And I think one of the early times I learned to like work around that and get to your heart, I was like, how did this just happen? You know, this actually brought something really courageous out of me that couldn't have happened before. And I think similarly, when it comes to intimacy, there's a lot to celebrate there, you know, in being together and loving each other.
My favorite part of the day. Well, this was a weird ender.
Daily.
Okay, let's open up to questions.
Let's do it.
Do you want to go into like intense one, or you want to like
let's go for an intense one?
Intense one. What's your take on sex toys?
Irrelevant.
There's a time and a place.
So, you know, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, I think it's fine if people want to use them. I like go for you. I don't.
Great.
I don't know if we
Nice
need it.
question. That's a crazy question.
I asked if you wanted a softball one, and you said that one.
I know.
I think it's great. If you're interested in that, go for it.
Do you
that
like
is
the
my
second
What's the
difficult
second
question?
one? Okay, what is it?
I don't know. You tell me. Like I'm saying the next, because that was a doozy. Caught me off guard there, bro.
Sorry. I tried to give you the offering. Okay. What do you do when like sex feels regimented? Like if you have kids and you have to like schedule it.
Take advantage of it.
Take advantage of the scheduled
of the time. Yeah, like don't miss that opportunity. No, with kids, yeah, there's a very delicate you know, window that you can make things happen.
It's less free flowing than pre-kids, that's for sure.
For sure.
But I do think it's important to like it may not ever just happen.
Scheduling is the wrong word.
Okay.
Scheduling is because that's never how it happens. It's never like, okay, 10 o'clock, you know, whatever. It's more of like, what can you be doing throughout the day to, you know, just build intimacy, like little touches along the way, or just ways to not expose yourself.
No,
ways to share yourself, to open your heart, to be connected. And then like the metal in the microwave, I don't know, like we're something where it's like it could catch fire anytime.
Oh yeah, no, I feel like that's
like
important.
You want to create the kindling so the fire can.
It's basically called foreplay is what you're saying. Emotional foreplay and physical.
Yeah.
But it's big though, it's not just like this one act, like throughout the day, it's flirty texts, it's little touches, it's little grabs.
I clean the dishes.
But that does help. I mean, that's so stupid, but I
vacuumed.
I think, okay. Whoa, sexy voice. But I think those little things contribute where you feel taken care of. And then it feels like I'm more freed up and I'm more inclined to have sex.
I'm feeling very uncomfortable.
I know, but it's not an uncomfortable thing.
No, I know.
Actually, it kind of is. Mainly because we're putting it out there for everyone to hear. That's where it feels a little like, whoa. How do you keep things fresh if you've been married for a long time?
Again, I feel like all my answers are the same thing. I think it's the little knowing things throughout the day, throughout the months, you know, like everything. It's like a snowball that builds up. Like I care so much about you that I want to just not constantly be like in that state, but I want to continue, you know, building up this fire that we have, you know, because then it's not just like, sure, sex is great. Maybe it lasts like only an hour or like 2 hours or something. Just kidding.
Whoa.
But maybe it's like, it's an episode, right? Whereas, you know, the season is us.
Yeah.
There's a lot happening in our daily lives. And I think, what's the question exactly?
How to keep it fresh.
How to keep it fresh. I think the freshness comes every day. It's so cheesy, but it comes with the natural part of life. Like, am I bringing my best to you? Am I serving you 100%? I'm not perfect. I don't always do it, but that's the thing that keeps it fresh. That drive for me, not just to have sex with you, but to love you, to be with you. And that compounds, you know, it adds, I don't know, it feels like we're 10 years in. I saw this thing about how like the most difficult points of marriage, is it like 4 years, 7 years, the 7-year itch or whatever they
Mm-hmm.
call it, and then 11 years. There's all these points where like the professionals or the therapists or whoever, they say that like there's fractures that are common that happen, and we're past a lot of those,
Mm-hmm.
and we're entering into the 11th year. What I mean by that is there's so much I don't know, just freedom in what we have and what we've built, that now 10 years into marriage, it's like we're closer than we ever have been. And I think some of these ideas and concepts have really helped us draw closer to one another and still be individuals and still like connect in so many new ways. So I don't know, to answer your question, I think the freshness comes in just your outlook of life. You know, it's bigger than sex. It's the whole marriage. It's the whole relationship. Like that. It's like the symptom versus the like cause.
Sure.
Right. Like you can have a cough. It can mean a ton of different diseases. Like completely inverse. You could have like a spark, but like what's the fire inside that's like causing those fireworks to happen on different days, you know?
I love
multiple
you.
times a day.
Okay. I love you, and I love your brain though, because like that's so beautiful and so romantic, because I was thinking a different answer to that question.
Answer it.
I was thinking
Still concrete.
the invisible text feature is awesome. Friggin' great on iPhones. Like we always have to warn each other though. We're like, hey, can I send an invisible, text message or whatever? Because that kind of sucks sometimes if you're around someone.
Yeah.
But there's different ways you can keep it fresh that aren't within these like constructs or parameters. Like send a sexy text, whatever, go for it. That's how I think you keep it fresh too. I mean, yours is so beautiful and so, I don't know, up in the air. Mine's like granular.
How are you the opposite?
I don't know. We're so opposite. You're so romantic. You're so romantic. I'm a little more practical.
Practical.
Sometimes
though, the invisible text, it's like, it could be a message about like Isley's poop or something like that, or daughter.
That's true. That's a real disappointment letdown if it's like not about something fun.
You're like, ooh, oh.
Ooh. Okay. Last question, and it comes to this. What do you do when you and your partner have different sex drives and sex needs?
That's a tough one, because, even just how it's phrased, it's a need. It's a big part of, marriage, and a healthy marriage, to be intimate and connected in that way. And I think that patience is really hard, but it's really good in that situation. It also just allows for, I don't know, if it was me, I would think like if a different area of my life, I would want that same kind of grace and patience. Like if I don't know, couldn't keep a job or something and bring income, it's like there's a need in the family or in the relationship, in the marriage, that I can't bring at the moment. I would hope that there's grace. Or if I went through a loss and I was like super like depressed, going through grief, anything like that, I would hope that for a season there would be grace from my spouse on it. It's a similar kind of thing, I think, with the intimacy, that it may just take time and figuring out what clicks and what works. And maybe that if it's not happening on all cylinders like right away, it's not like bing bang boom, whatever.
Wow. What was that one? Bingo, bango, bungo. That one movie.
I forget that movie, but
it was Meet the Fockers.
Okay. But if you are patient in those situations, or no. If you are coming at the situation and you're finding it's not working, maybe that what you're trying is the wrong thing. You might need to just try another avenue to connect a certain way, foreplay, whatever that might be,
Yeah.
The many ways you could look at that, just conversation, even being vulnerable.
I love that,
opens up a lot.
This was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you joining me on this. I'm actually shocked that you joined, because
Shocked.
Well, yeah. Remember when we did that game show?
Oh.
I don't have to tell the story unless you want me to.
I'd love to tell this story.
You want to tell it or can I?
You set it up and then I'll.
Okay, we did a game show where my uncle was a contestant. It was during COVID. And so he only brought like 3 people. There was no audience. And we went and the host was like Joel McHale. And we were all there. They were like, be as loud, be as over the top as possible since we don't have an audience.
3 people in the audience.
3
No, 5
people.
people in the audience. 2 for the other contestant, 3.
3 on our
For
side of
your
the fence.
uncle.
And we were going at it. And Joel McHale was roasting you so hard. He was like, man,
I was
be quiet
giving
over there, Aaron.
100%. I was being as loud as I could possibly be in an empty studio with just Haven and everyone.
I know, but like he was going so hard. Like, wow, you're so loud over there. Just like being like
Pipe down over there, Aaron.
Yeah.
I remember what he said. It scarred me a little bit.
Sorry. But we got in the car and I was like, hey, hon, like on a scale of 1 to 10, like how loud did you feel like you were being? And you were like, I was giving it a 10. And I
Yeah.
said, it read like a 2. Like you felt you were being so loud, but really it was like, yeah.
Yeah, Justin.
Yeah,
Go.
just let's go, man. But I say that because it's like not your natural take to like go to a space like this. So I'm so glad you asked. You're like, when are you going to have me? And I just would have never thought it's something you want to do. So I'm so glad you were here. You bring
Thank
such
you. Thank
a
you for
wise
having me.
depth.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're here. So overall, I hope this was helpful for couples out there of the first episode and the second one. All of it goes in compounds onto one another, as you'll see, and as even Aaron referenced. Like it's all interwoven. It's all important. But we, Aaron and I, want you to have great marriages. We want you to have like healthy communication. We want you to have healthy relationships to one another and those outside. And there's a ton of resources out there. And there's a lot of conversations to be had. But ultimately, it's you and your partner that are building the life that you're building. And so I'm happy to be building it with you, hun. I love you.
Can I add one thing?
Oh, okay.
I think it's very important that when you're getting married, just to have a person that you can talk to about it, like a professional
Mhm.
counselor, because like we've had our guy for 10 years. Before that, we probably were like
It's
a
like
year,
12.
2 before even we got married. Like I did some personal stuff, you did some too, and then we kind of like came together. It was just nice to have a safe place to get things out where it's not like you're attacking someone by addressing a problem, and just learning how to communicate, having someone facilitate, especially in the beginning stages, it's like invaluable. So I highly recommend. There's some kind of stigma around marriage counseling, maybe less nowadays because more people are like open about it. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
you must have some issues if you're going to counseling. Actually, you have issues no matter what. And like,
Yeah.
if you're not doing counseling, you're not dealing with them probably. So it's worth doing.
Totally.
Even
And-
if it's expensive. Like if you have insurance, find someone who's in your network. If you can't, like at least budget and try and figure out a way to make that happen. At least in the beginning stages. Like
it's more important than clothes. It's more important than hobbies.
Yes.
Like if you care about golf, you're going to buy the outfits and the clubs and the lessons. But like your marriage,
hobby is bigger than your hobby.
what?
Your hubby
Hubby is bigger
more
than
important
your
than your
hobby.
hobby.
That
Put
was
that
a-
on a t-shirt.
That's a good merch. That's a
Super.
stretch though. But overall, of like invest in your marriage, please. Like this,
Yeah.
it'll pay dividends overall. Can't recommend enough. So I love you, babe.
Love you.
Thank you. Thank you. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Haven the Podcast. Also YouTube, like, subscribe. I don't know what else you do there. I guess share it,
Watch it.
watch it. I mean, definitely watch it. And I do Q&As on my Instagram. I also accept long form topic requests and feedback to hello@havenpod.com. But overall, thank you for following me on this journey of just things that we're curious about and things that we're talking about together. And I'll see you on the next episode.